Bigfoot Collectors Club with Bryce and Michael. I know a ghost story or two.
I'm crispy.
Oh.
Let's do this.
I'm missing an ear today. I left
Is that like a
the
metaphorical?
desert with 2 ears, and now I only have 1.
That's all you need, man.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast that we call Bigfoot Collectors Club, the show where we talk to amazing guests about their personal paranormal history and share stories of high strangeness. I am your host, Michael McMillan. With me always is your other host,
Bryce Johnson.
and our super producer,
Riley Bray.
Oh boy, how was that weekend in the Palm Desert, everyone?
Epic. That shit was epic.
We went poolside.
Yeah.
We saw a UFO
Saw a
that might have
UFO,
been,
yeah.
probably was a balloon.
It's not a balloon,
Everyone
Michael.
says balloon. It was a balloon.
This is what I was like, and I told Michael this. I was like, as I'm talking to my guest, we'll introduce her here soon. But I was like, you got to let me finish watching this thing in case it makes any zigzags. You know, it's like I want to eliminate balloon, but they were like, okay, we've decided. Let's move on.
You didn't say, guys, stop, or hey, leave me here. Go back to the hotel.
leave me here so I can stare at
We
this
were
thing.
50 feet away in a golf resort from the hotel. We
Yeah.
would have all survived.
Yeah.
We of course are talking about our weekend in the Palm Desert at Contact in the Desert,
Yeah.
a UFO lovers convention, if we want
Sure.
to call it
Yeah.
that, where we did our first live show. Thank you to everyone who came to see us. Thank you to Katie, our super fan, who sat in the front row.
Yeah,
with her
shout out to Katie and
her
Tom.
husband made her do it, but it was worth it. We had a great time. And I am more scared of aliens than ever after talking to Daryl Sims.
Good, he did his
Could not
job.
sleep the night I got home from the convention. And in fact, at one point, I woke up and thought there was an alien gray standing next to my bed, and I punched the air and literally said, "Oh no, you don't."
Nice.
Well, at least you've been taking Daryl's advice. You don't just sit there placid. You got to punch him right in the face.
All right, returning to the show today is an amazing guest. She's one of our fan favorites. I've worked with her on many things. She is many things being one thing, but multiple episodes of that one thing.
Nice.
She's a star of stage and screen. You know her from Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. If you're a Broadway fanatic, you've seen her do a million things. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back to the show, Ms. Donna Lynne Champlin.
Yay!
Oh, good golly, Miss
Hello,
Molly.
everybody.
How's it going?
It's going very well. You know, Michael asked me to come and do another podcast last week.
Yeah.
And oh, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
there we
you
go.
so
Super
much.
producer Riley.
Eat the mic.
Yeah.
It's
It keeps
tipping.
tipping and tilting. We just got this place cleansed. What the fuck
It's
is
just a
happening?
mic adjustment.
Very
It's not
proud
a-
of you.
Yeah.
We all
Very
just
proud
got
of
back
you.
from the desert,
And
guys.
I also just bound your windows and doors when I came in.
Oh, thank you for
Didn't
doing
ask,
that.
But did it anyway.
No, we appreciate all the help we can get.
The reason why I did that is because you had asked me last week to come on. And of course, I love you guys. I love the podcast. I'm a huge fan.
Aw.
And I was like, absolutely, of course. And I actually started going through like my files and my pictures and stuff. And I was like, oh, is there anything I can talk about?
Because as we discussed your personal paranormal history last time,
Right.
you are, quick recap,
I am a Wiccan metaphysician for over 25 years, a ghost hunter. So I've been an occultist
Yes.
for many decades.
and you can hear that
Love
whole
that.
story on the, I think it's like episode 11, maybe,
Yeah.
of Bigfoot Collectors Club. So,
Yeah.
I was like, Donna Lynne, you got to come back.
I was like,
fans love you.
I would
Yes.
love to.
Listeners love some DL.
And then, you're already shaking your head.
And
on
smiling.
Wednesday, May 29th, which was after you'd asked me to be on the show, I went to Zach Bagan's Haunted Museum in Las Vegas.
I've always wanted to go there.
Yeah.
Real quick, who's Zach Bacon for those of our listeners who may not know that?
I hope I'm not saying his last name wrong. I believe it's Bagan. Bagan. Bagan.
Okay.
Zach is the host of the Travel Channel's show Ghost Adventures, and he is, I think, entering his 17th season.
Jeez Louise.
Amazing.
Yes.
The dude who looks like he was in Third Eye Blind or
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
definitely has a very specific look. I have watched the show off and on for 17 years. I was a huge fan, especially the first season. And it's really funny to watch the difference between the first and second season, because in the first season, he's sort of a very gangly, unsure kind of just nerdy guy, which I loved.
Yeah.
And then like between season 1 and 2, I think Travel Channel knew what they had, and they were like, here, let's really like crystallize your persona. And so he was jacked.
Oh, he hit the gym, huh?
Yeah.
And he was like wearing all black, and he was more aggressive on the show, and that
Ghosts give you strength.
well, I guess. But I have to say, I am a fan, and I actually got a chance to meet him after my tour, and he couldn't have been nicer. And I shook his hand, and I just felt just kindness.
Oh, that's
Good vibes.
And he is a good man. But the provocation that he does on the show, he's very aggressive, and he provokes a lot. And for me, that's just not...
It's like, hey, you looking at me, Ghost?
I mean,
Pretty
he-
much, yeah, it's
Poker
awesome.
and a prodder, huh?
yeah, which I'm not judging. It's just not
You
sort of
checking out these sweet apps, Ghost?
Right. You want some of that, huh?
It's just not my personal style.
Yeah,
So, but though I did tell you about that crazy episode where they went to Ireland. If there's any Ghost Adventure fans, you know what I'm talking about, where they went to this very haunted castle in Ireland, and they got security footage from the castle, and it is astonishing.
Really?
But anyway, I think he's the real deal, and I think he also has a great respect for what he's doing, which I very much appreciate. So he has, in the last year, it's only been open a year, he has opened a haunted museum where he has, he's been on the show 17 years. He has
that's
quite a bit of money.
No small feat.
And he has chosen to use this money to purchase a haunted sort of mansion in Las Vegas, and then fill it, very large place, with haunted objects, macabre
fun.
objects.
Mm-hmm.
He has spent. I don't know, honestly, but it looks like, I would say, multi-millions of dollars.
This is like when Kentucky Fried Chicken came out with the Double Down, where it was like a hamburger that instead of bread, it was like 2 fried chicken breasts in place of the bread.
Yes.
It's like, let's get something that's like too much, and then just pump it full of even more.
The ghosts of the chicken in this analogy.
I have to say, though,
Okay, I kind
Or
of
the haunted, yeah.
kind of wasn't following
Ghosts
there.
wrapped in ghosts.
his
Okay.
collection, though, I have to say, is astonishing, and he has curated it with incredible care and with a lot of artistry, but he has some objects in there that are considered some of the most demonically possessed art in the world.
Does he live in that house?
I don't think so. I think he
hell
spends a
fucking
lot
no.
of time in there.
Right.
He has a separate residence, I'm sure.
Right.
I hope. But he has the Dybbuk box.
That
The
Dybbuk box
Dybbuk
needs to
box.
bounce. It needs to get out of here.
He
Goodbye.
has Bela Lugosi's mirror. He has Peggy the doll. He has he bought the Demon House in Connecticut. Bought the whole house.
Amityville?
Wow.
No.
What's the
much
Demon
more
House?
recent.
Connecticut's New York,
Is
or
it
Amityville's
Connecticut?
New York.
I believe it's Connecticut. Did you guys hear about the family with the young children, and the kid was in the
Oh,
hospital?
this is the haunting in Connecticut.
Nope, different.
Jesus.
But the kid there was a social worker at the hospital, and the social worker was holding the hand of the child, and the child walked backwards up the wall.
Oh,
This
hell
is
no.
the haunting of Emily Rose.
Nope. It's
Is
called
this
the
Close
Demon
Encounters of the
House.
Third
Keep
Kind?
naming movies.
Three
Is this
ninjas.
Jurassic Park 2?
But he bought the entire house, and then he transferred the most possessed parts of the house and tons of dirt and put it into the exhibit. Now, again, I will say,
This guy's building a nuclear
He's a
ghost
hobbyist.
bomb.
but so did
What are you
Lorraine
gonna do?
Warren. I
Yes.
think of which he has taken some of her
The
collection.
rocking
as well.
chair.
Right. So
He's like, some people like trains.
yeah, but I will say again, though, I could feel his wards, and he has been very responsible with some of these more demonic objects. First of all, they're
have to be.
optional on the tour, which I think is incredibly, incredibly respectful. I personally opted out.
Yeah.
I opted out of most of the options.
Yeah.
Of the like,
I opted out of the Dibbit box. I opted out of most of them because I just thought, I can see it from here. I'm
Yeah.
good.
now when you
Yep.
say opted out, just getting a closer look at it.
Yeah, or in some cases, like looking directly in it. Or there was Peggy the doll, where
It's like staring into
you
the Ark of
can-
the
Do you want
Covenant.
5 minutes alone with this object?
Well, kind of. And so here's where my story begins.
Before we get there,
Yes,
I
baby.
know I'm so excited about this, and I'm just jumping all over it. Can you briefly explain Peggy the doll
Yes.
and Bela Lugosi's mirror? Because
Yes.
both of those sounded awesome.
Hold on, and also at the risk of sounding like a noob, what is a Dibbit box?
I don't know what a
Dybbuk.
Dybbuk box is.
Okay.
Dybbuk.
A
Yeah.
Dybbuk box is I don't. We should really look it up and Google it and read it correctly. But what I can remember is that it's a Jewish demon, and it's a part of the Judaism and that belief system. And trapped in the Dybbuk box is this horrible demon entity that has been summoned and trapped. And if you open the box, apparently every person who has opened this box has died almost immediately.
Wow.
And then getting it back in the box, I would imagine is
It's like a
difficult.
bad Ark of the Covenant or
Dybbuk
something.
box
Yes, Michael.
is a wine box which is said to be haunted by a Dybbuk. A Dybbuk is a restless, usually malicious spirit believed to be able to haunt and even possess the living. The box gained notoriety when it was auctioned on eBay. Anyway, yes, it is from the term Dybbuk box was first created and used by Kevin Mannis, who was the guy who sold it, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, yeah, it has
There's a movie too.
Yeah, The Possession. But it has its roots in
Judaic.
in like folklore.
Yes.
Along like tulpas come from I think also Jewish folklore.
Yeah.
I think.
And he's got it in a separate room, which I'm sure is aligned with, lead or whatever you need to do. The box itself is within, I think, 2 or 3 layers of like plastic
Yeah.
or whatever. And he's got 24/7 Judaic chants all around at it
Like-
the whole time.
Hebrew, is it in Hebrew or Yiddish?
I honestly don't know.
We're an idiot. We're idiots.
I mean,
Where's
I'm
Rachel
Just
Bloom when we need her?
pounding
Seriously,
them
she's
with
going to
those
be
chants.
so
We just
mad at
spent
us.
4 years on a
She
very
is gonna be so mad
Jewish
at
show,
us.
and we're
like,
wasping and
I don't know.
Catholicizing the crap out of this.
Right?
All good.
Stupid white people. But
Yeah.
So again, I have great respect for the pains that he has taken to ward the shit out of this stuff.
Sure.
And in fact, I could feel, and I'm an empath, which we established in the last thing. So I rarely feel anything physically. I feel emotions, and I feel weight and temperature, but I don't feel vibrations. I don't hear, I don't see anything. And I'm telling you, every room that had a ward in it, I'm not kidding. It was at a different pitch, but it would be like,
Wow.
and then I walk into another room and be like, and you could.
Yeah.
I
I'm
think
good.
what I was feeling was because the pushback of the power of the objects was so intense against the wards. Like I actually felt it. You know, when you stand like on an electrical line that's ungrounded, it was that.
And
It's that.
an award's just a talisman that is protecting, blocking energy.
It can be anything from what is that?
That freaked me
All
out
right,
for a real second.
that's exactly the sound and the feeling.
DL's
Sorry.
phone just vibrated.
Just when I vibrate, but that's exactly what it is. See, again, that's why I worded because my hands are freezing because I'm still shaken from my experience. Anyway, a ward can be anything from a physical talisman or chanting or prayers or binding, of an object. in various different ways. You know,
So
there's
like
a bunch
in
of ways to ward or bind
in a
something.
vampire movie, holding up the cross against a
Garlic.
vampire or garlic,
Yes.
those are wards.
Yes.
Okay, so who's Peggy the doll, real quick, and what's Bela Lugosi's mirror?
Okay, Bela Lugosi's mirror, as far as I can remember from the tour, it was Bela Lugosi's mirror. He was very much into the occult, and he used to summon and use the mirror as a conjuring device.
That's great.
And I don't remember exactly what happens if you look into the mirror, but I remember when they said, "This is what happens," I was like, peace out.
Yeah.
I was like, and
I'm
again,
good.
it's really great because they're like, who would like to opt out of looking directly into the mirror? And it was always me. There was nobody else. And I was like, don't you guys know what's happening?
I'm with you. I ain't taking no hitchhiker home.
But it's a conjuring, anything that has been used actively to conjure something, or it's basically an open portal.
Sure.
And once you open a portal, I don't even know if it's possible to close it, but you know, those are the things you got to really be careful about and be careful with. And me personally, I don't tempt it in any way.
No
But,
one is,
you know,
got your back. Here.
Yeah. And then Peggy the doll, I don't know what her history is, but apparently also demonically possessed. And what they've got in her room is that very staticky ghost box where it's constantly
Like a spirit box.
and every once in a while a word will pop out. And so what you do is you have to, when you go in, say hi Peggy, and you have to, when you leave, say bye Peggy. And then you are allowed to ask questions, but they say, you know, and you can look her in the eyes if you want to risk having a heart attack, you know, that kind of thing. Oh my God, you should have seen the waiver we all had to sign before we walked in.
Are you kidding me?
I don't blame him. I don't blame him at all. At all.
How
I
could-
almost, you guys, and look, I have been present at fucking exorcisms. I'm not kidding. I looked at that waiver and I almost walked away.
Yeah.
I did.
Right.
How would anyone, and sidebar, I mean, not that we're obviously all signed up for this. We did all agree that ghosts are real.
Ghosts are real.
We've
Yeah.
officially said, okay, official BCC belief system,
Yeah.
ghosts are real.
For sure.
How would you ever prove if something bad happened to you in a court of law happened because you were in that?
I have a very interesting story about that
Fantastic.
with Lorraine Warren.
Okay.
Zach has, can I remind me to tell you at the end,
Great.
because it comes at the tail end of my story.
Fantastic.
A particular artifact that ties into a court of law
Great.
with Lorraine Warren
I'm so
defending
excited.
someone as possessed.
Copy that.
Okay.
Here I go.
Here we go.
Sit back.
Let's do
Sit
it.
in.
So I know what I'm walking into, right? So I ward up like a motherfucker.
What are your
Word
words?
up, dog.
I don't want to say, but they are and I spent hours. My tour was at 1. I spent hours
You started at 9 a.m.
visualizing and just saying prayers and calling on my guides and my angels for protection, and you know, send me a sign if this is something I shouldn't do. I've got till 1 o'clock. You know, my eyes are open, and then I also have a text chain with other light workers, which Michael is familiar with, and I asked for their support between the hours
So you
of
called
1
in
and
the
4.
Avengers.
I called in the
you
Avengers.
suited up in your Mach 3
And I said to
armor.
them, I didn't tell them where I was going. I said, I'm going into a very supercharged negative energy area. So between 1 and 4, will you please send light and make sure that I'm protected? And they were like, copy that. So not only was I and then I wore tons of talismans. I wore literally every talisman that I
great,
have
yeah.
here in Los Angeles, made for me by a light worker.
Yeah.
And I was like, I think I'm good. So I walked in basically on spiritual Novocaine, which was how I wanted it. Nothing was getting in, nothing was getting out.
Love that.
And I purposely, in my visualizations, tried to give myself an invisibility cloak. You know, because sometimes when you ward up, you can look like a bug light.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? It's like, pa-chew, pa-chew. It's like, you know, and demonic negative energies, they're like cockroaches. You shine a light on them and they're like, they don't like it. So I go in, I sign my waiver. I almost turn around. I'm like, no, I'm good. I've taken every precaution. I'm fine. And I walk in the lobby and all I want to do is go to sleep. Which again, not surprising because the energy in that place, it's like, in Ghostbusters where they're like, that's a big Twinkie.
Yes.
It's that.
Yeah.
It is that. And so I thought, this is fine. Nothing. I didn't feel anything negative, aggressive, nothing. I just felt like I just wanted to get on the floor and take a nap. And, I was like, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. And honestly, and the staff there, fantastic. The security, fantastic. Like I can't say enough positive things about the place and the people in it. I really can't.
Think about having a job at that place.
Well, I spoke with one of the tour guides for a little bit about that. I had to ask. So anyway, I do the whole tour. I've got some people on my tour I'm a little concerned about, but other than that, I was
4-year-old girl whose head is turning.
Well, I was more. She just seemed very obsessed with Zach. She seemed a little stalkery. I was concerned for him, but I wasn't concerned that she was, dabbling.
Might I
on
show
the
you
tour
to the
or
Dybbuk
anything.
box?
But it was funny because I did though. The only time my spidey sense was up was with this woman. And I did the whole thing. I opted out of some of the stuff, which we've already discussed. And I had no incident. I felt at no time any aggressive attack on me or anybody in the tour, which was by design.
Yeah.
So, one of the tour guides was actually a fan of the show. And it's so funny. Like every time I go someplace, they're like, I'm not supposed to do this at work, but I'm a huge fan of the show.
Which means they say that to everyone that they've seen on TV.
And I love it. And I'm always like, that's totally fine. I won't tell anybody unless I'm on a podcast.
Right.
And she was lovely. And I said to her, how do you work here? How do you, I said, all I want to do is fall asleep from the I'm so tired. I'm just climbing the stairs is tired. I'm exhausted. And and it's funny because this is how it's legit. And she's like, well, like in the, and I went and got some milk. Like, she's like, well, stuff happens. And she's like, you notice none of the tour guides go into Peggy's room because, any of the tour guides go in, like once they get to know you, the entities get to know you in here, they don't like you because, they like the new people. They're relatively nice to the tour guests because they're new. And she's like, tour guides don't go in Peggy's room because the box will always say, die, bitch, or I will kill you.
Whoa, Peggy! So you're wrong.
But this is how she said it, though. She's just like, so I just don't go in there. Right. I'm like, smart. Okay. And she's like, but she did say something incredibly smart and profound, which was, she said, when I first started working here, it was very hard and I was very scared and I had a lot of incidents. She said, and then I realized that really it's only about the power that I give these things. So I kind of turned a corner and realized if I don't give them power, then they don't have power over me. She said, and a lot of it stopped.
That's amazing.
That echoes a lot of what Adela Levine said on her last episode.
Yeah, I vibe with that 100%.
And I was like, copy that. That makes total sense to me. And I also did, I did feel something in the Peggy room, which was funny because I did ask her a question. I kept my head down and my hands in my pockets and my eyes closed, and I didn't say a word in that room because I was, again, invisible was my goal, invisible. And but I said, Peggy can't like that spirit box on 24/7. That must piss her off. And she looked at me, she went, well, she's a demon. Like literally like, what do we care if she's, it's not like it's somebody's sweet grandmother. It's, and I was like, right. Oh, yeah. Okay. I guess
but
so.
Do we want to
but I remember, honestly, that was the thing that overwhelmed my mind in that room was how annoyed the doll must be by the box. And if I had asked a question in that room, that's the question I would have asked of the doll.
Wow.
How much do you hate this spirit box?
It's like, I gotta be honest, I would love 5 minutes
Just give me
without
5
that
minutes.
fucking thing.
I just want some peace and quiet.
I'll chill out on the die bitch if I can
good.
get fucking 10 minutes.
Yeah. But I mean, again, the staff was, and they're so matter of fact about the stuff that happens. They were like, just a couple days ago, a man who was standing right where you're standing now, sir, he had a sensation of, and of course they have cameras 24/7 going on in that place. They have already in the past year
It's a show
caught
in itself.
so much. I mean, shit moving around and doors opening and orbs, tons of orbs and, stuff being unplugged and things being thrown.
I wonder what it's like having all that stuff in one house, like how all those different energies feel about being stuffed into a box.
I just can't. I can't
so
even.
Weird.
So uneventful. Met his mother in the gift shop. Lovely woman. Zach came out, met him. Kind man. He seems very exhausted and was very orally gray.
Does she work in the gift shop?
She does.
Oh,
and
no, that's
she
amazing.
Is adorable.
Oh, that's great.
And I had a wonderful experience. Bought a key for my collection.
Nice.
And got in a lift. And I sent a text to my spirit friends and said, I'm out.
Made it.
Please check and make sure I'm clean and that I did not drag anything out with me. And so I took a picture of all my stuff, of my bracelets, which I'm wearing now.
You're holding up your bracelets.
And
they're
for my
beads.
friend, yes, numerous bracelets, all made with light. And I took a friendly picture in the lift saying, see, I wore your stuff. Thank you so much for the protection. So I have that picture.
Oh, dear.
And you can see, I'm showing the guys. And
this will all be up on the Instagram.
Yes.
Go to it now.
You've got all my stuff there, right?
Yeah,
You
I
got
see your beads.
and
Yeah.
they're now.
So let me see the photo.
The photo is you
Donna
see
Lynne
both wrists.
showing up, taking a selfie with one, and then taking a picture of the other wrist with the beads. Like, I did it.
Right. I get home, I go to my hotel room, and I take off all my stuff, and I'm tooling around. I'm not even thinking about it, and I go to reach for something, and I look, and I see on my arm are 3 huge scratches.
Oh, shit. You got.
And welts going up to a little below my elbow. Oh. Now, so many questions. Again, as somebody who's a ghost hunter and I've been present at things.
Wow.
It gets better. Normally when you are scratched by a demonic entity, it burns and it burns immediately. And I felt nothing. And also, because I took the picture in the lift, the scratches are here under where the bracelets were, but then there are all these welts above it, which are not in the picture in the lift.
Of the bracelets. Of you with the bracelets.
Right.
Right.
So my question is, another question I would have as a, someone...
Bed bugs in the lift?
Unlikely.
But here's the thing. So I've worn these bracelets all day as an experiment. And if I'd had an allergic reaction to these beads, which is unlikely because I've worn them many, many times before, if I'd had an allergic reaction, there would be tenderness, itching, burning, just a normal injury. If I'd hurt myself, scratched myself, I would have felt something. But it was like having makeup on. It was so bizarre. And also the scratches are going in the opposite direction of where my bracelets lie. So I thought, wow, okay. So I text Michael immediately and I'm like, holy shit, dude, what's going on? And so I start to document it because I figure whatever this is, I'm going to send it to Zach. Because he's clearly documenting other things that happened at his museum. And just for my own satisfaction, in case anything really, really crazy or horrible goes down, and I have dragged something with me.
Totally.
That was my main concern, is that they popped
Shouldn't
up.
have signed that waiver.
I know. After I came home or came to the hotel, that's when these marks presented themselves. And I was like, fuck.
Were they there when you took off the...
I don't know.
That's the thing, because you weren't paying attention. It wasn't until
I
you
wasn't,
reached.
but I will tell you when I reached, it wasn't a minute later.
Right.
So I think I would have remembered had I done something, but still that wouldn't explain the welts on the top.
No. I know that.
But as a ghost hunter, I have been asked, I was like, well, this doesn't make sense. Why didn't it burn? That doesn't make, that's not protocol.
I was just curious if maybe the war, maybe it had a lingering effect. For example, not quite sidebar, but our guest at the live show, Daryl Sims, who deals with ETs, aliens, he talks about that often, that victims who have been abducted, the entities if they've touched their skin,
Leave a hand mark.
leave markings behind that can be seen with fluorescent light under like black lighting.
Black lighting.
Up to days, if not weeks later.
Right.
So I'm wondering if while the wards were on, nothing's getting through.
That's what I
But
think.
the moment you take it up,
There they are.
they grow.
Yeah.
They rise to the surface or they appear.
Yeah.
It would have been really cool to. Not
I
cool,
know.
But to,
I
like,
wish
see if
I'd
you could
been
see him
paying
appear in weird.
attention.
Well, of course, you were
If
like
I'd felt
been there, done that.
something. So then I go into immediate damage control. I start cleansing, warding. I start protecting and binding the entire hotel suite. I look at my kid who's sitting there playing on the iPad. I throw him in a bubble of light. And I sat down
Doctor
next to him.
Stranging the shit out of
I
this
mean,
place.
I was like, what the fuck? So then I'm sitting next to him, and then all of a sudden, we were in a suite, and the lights go out only in the room that we're in. And I was like, no. So I am like, I'm texting Michael. I'm texting my spirit friends on my text chain. I'm like, throw every like nuclear option. I am not messing around. My kid is here. Throw everything you've got at me, ladies. This is not a drill.
Care Bear stare time.
Oh my Lord, have mercy. And so, but here's the thing. I didn't feel, now again, I don't know if I'm still on spiritual Novocaine and not feeling anything on purpose. That's the other terrifying thing is I'm an empath.
Right.
That's my tool.
You just like drugged yourself up.
I did.
You were on like spiritual like
heroin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You were just like, I'm fucking stoned
And
here.
I thought it was like this. That's the call to make. So I'm documenting it, and then the if you flip they get darker as the night goes on.
Should I flip?
The scratches.
Yeah, go ahead and flip
Oh my
to the
God,
next
because
page.
they're pretty red on this first page.
And they're actually more red in the actual pictures. My printer kind of blows, but
I've seen the photos.
Mike's seen them. So, and then all of a sudden, the next morning, it's like they're practically gone. And then
When did the lights come back on?
They didn't.
Even like flip.
They didn't.
Flip.
I left him alone. I couldn't. I just couldn't.
Wow.
I couldn't. So then, when the redness started to go, fingerprint bruises started to come up underneath, and that's when I realized that it looked like a big
That's
hand
later.
had grabbed.
That's later after that.
Holy
You're
shit.
You were like,
and I still have the
legit
bruises.
bruised
Yeah,
in
that's
this.
no joke.
You can
Those
still
are
see
bruises.
the bruises, and that's still there. That might be a scar, but you can still vaguely see the.
That looks like you like really someone really grabbed your arm.
Yeah. And then a night later, my phone was on my side table off, not on vibrate, off. And I woke up, thank God, at like 7 a.m., not 3:15 in the a.m., thank God. It flew off I woke up because it landed on the floor loud enough to wake me up.
The phone did.
The phone did. And I was like, mother.
How far from where it was?
I mean, probably, I'd say it was probably 3 inches from the edge.
Okay.
Honestly, I can't say for sure though,
Yeah,
because
but
at night I'm sleepy. I
But
put
not
it,
on the edge.
but it 7 a.m. out of nowhere it falls. It was bizarre. So Sunday, I have made an appointment with one of my most powerful psychic friends who also has decades of work in the paranormal. She's a paranormal person. She was on a show. Investigator, thank you. And because it's so funny because I believe in all this stuff. Again, I've captured orbs, I've captured EVPs, but something about this I couldn't accept.
A little too personal.
I couldn't accept it. And so I was waiting for somebody to tell me that it wasn't real.
Right. Oh, so when you say I couldn't accept it, do you mean like I believe that what happened is a demon or entity grabbed me, but I'm not having that? Or do you mean I can't even believe this?
I can't even believe it, mostly because I wanted to think. I kept going back over. I was like, where could I have hurt? Where could I have
your
done
skeptical mind kicked in.
Totally, because, and also, there are some things that don't follow. it didn't burn, which is not normal. And they rose after I left the building. Those are two things that are very abnormal and not normal in this sort of scratching situation. So those are my outs in my skeptical brain, who was just like, I don't want to really believe that this actually happened to me.
Yeah, but how do you know they rose after you were in the building?
Well,
because
I do know this part rose after the lift, because we have the picture from the lift that shows this area is totally clear.
Your upper forearm.
Yeah. So I spoke to...
But we do know for sure they were definitely there once the bracelets
I took
came
everything off. I took all my wards off.
That's the one thing we're sure about.
So I spoke to my friend. We spoke for 80 minutes, and she was tossing cards, and the devil card and the high priestess card reversed came up numerous times.
And
So
I'm taking it that's not good.
It's not good. So basically what she said was, and again, like, I told her what happened, and she's throwing the cards. She's not saying anything to me. And so finally I'm like, so what do you think? I mean, it didn't burn, and they didn't show up until I got home.
I'm good, right?
I don't know. Maybe it was the soap at the hotel. And she was like, oh, no, girl, you got attacked. She was like, no question. She was like, are you questioning that? And I was like, I don't want it to be real. And she was like, no, for sure. Yeah, no, that definitely happened. But she said that you probably were so warded up that it could mark you but not latch. And she said it sort of was like a symbolic fuck you. It was, I'm going to let you know that I gotcha.
Yeah.
But I can't hurt you because you're too warded up. I can't hurt you, but I will let you know that I gotcha.
I was there.
Yeah.
I was there. He tagged you.
You tagged me.
Like graffiti style.
Yeah. And
what's interesting is you're trying to like be invisible, but do you think that like all these talismans made you sort of stand out from the others?
I was a bug light. And also she said, well, of course they didn't come up until you took your talismans off. Like, that's hilarious because she's like, duh.
Yeah, but a bug light zaps bugs, so you might have been lit up, but you should have zapped him.
Well, this is what she thinks happened. She said, I feel like because there is a high priestess upside down, she said, that's a practitioner. So she said, I feel like there was somebody on your tour who was dabbling and conjuring while you were on the tour, and you got caught in the crossfire.
And you know who that was.
And I was like, it's so funny because
Fangirl 69.
There was somebody on that tour who was
Fangirl 666999.
And I said, it's funny. I kept my distance from her. If she was in the front, I was in the back. If she was in the back, I was in the front. Like she made me uncomfortable. And she said that's probably it. She probably was dabbling and conjuring the whole time, and you got caught in the middle. She said, or instead of being an invisibility cloak, you walked in there like a big, huge,
red blinking light.
Hello, darling.
Hello, demons. And
you can't mess with me, or you can.
And she was like, she said it looks like whatever it was trying to rip that stuff off your wrist. It was trying to get rid of it. And she
holding
said,
your wrist with one and then clawing at him with the other, maybe.
And she said, here's the good news, is that it did not follow you. She said that thing wants nothing to do with you. It wanted you out. She said, did you feel, and she was like, did you feel really sleepy? She said, that thing just wanted you unconscious and out of the building.
What about the lights?
She said, now this is where, again, I go, she said, because I was in such overdrive of cleansing and energetic work and freaking out and trying to clean my son and trying to clean the room and bind and whatever. She said, you could have honestly
blown a fuse,
telekinetically blown some shit.
Great.
Sure.
And I was like, that would be easier for me to believe if I've ever had an episode in my entire life where I had telekinetic powers, and I have not. And she was like, oh, have you been clawed by a demon before? And I was like,
all new to me.
Have you warded up that heavily before?
I never have in my life.
That's the thing.
Right.
And so she actually thinks that it was either me blowing a fuse or my guides working so hard that they were just knocking shit off.
Well, now, and I'm just, pea shooting here.
Yeah.
But if you're also with your child in that room, there's an amplification happening there.
Oh, I lost my... ever loving
You know what
mind.
I mean?
Yeah.
So like that being by your son is going to be an emotional trigger for an empath as well, especially when you're concerned and you're in mama bear mode.
Yeah.
Right? So maybe it just did go into overdrive.
Oh, and my child
like a spiritual adrenaline rush.
Yeah. My child now has a nightly ritual that we do. And I walk him through it and we do it together, and he is just tucked in tight every night. Yeah. And
it's the DL household's version of saying prayers.
Yeah. So then I thought, okay, we're done.
Oh,
I
God,
put my
no.
I put my shit together and I put it in an envelope to send to Zach. And so then the next day, an article comes out on TMZ, which you also have the link to, that the day before I had been at the museum on May 28th, I was there the 29th, he had opened up a new exhibit, which was the rocking chair that Michael was referencing earlier. And they released the cameras that they opened that exhibit, and that rocking chair, the door to its exhibit opened and the light unplugged, and a woman who was on a tour had a fainting episode and was screaming, "Why is this happening to me?" She was inconsolable. She passed out, and then 5 tour guides became inconsolable.
Geez.
And those tour guides, again, I have to say, I met them the next day. Nobody said a word.
Right.
They were all incredibly professional. They were all...
Maybe that was a whole other shift.
Might have been. But because of what happened, he closed that exhibit because I did not see that chair, but the chair was still there. And the woman who fainted was in the stairwell above where the chair was. So that shit can travel clearly out of its room.
Straight up
out of that room. And I will bet you anything that when I was and I remember, because I had said to the tour guide, it's so hard to go up the stairs.
You mentioned the stairs, yeah.
Because I remembered having a moment on the stairs just thinking, can I sit somewhere? I just need to close my eyes.
I feel like this guy's going to burn a portal open in the Nevada desert.
Just
like,
but here's the thing. Again, though, I respect the fact that he closed it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like in another
shut it down
on another
Right.
person's hands who was more
Ride
irresponsible.
malfunctioned. Yeah.
They would have
Under
kept
repair.
that shit open. You know what I mean? Like
they didn't
I
want
respect
an Amity
his
Island
choice.
Right.
shark incident.
But I will bet you anything that's what got me.
That's wild.
That rocking chair belonged in Elizabeth Warren's personal collection in
yes,
Ed and
and
Lorraine.
he bought it from the brother. Okay, here's the story. This is not the Demon House. This is the Connecticut one. A house in Connecticut, different. A young boy, I think age 11, was possessed. And that rocking chair was in the room. And I guess the kid was possessed by multiple entities. And the Warrens were coming, Ed and Lorraine Warren, very famous demonologists, and on whom the Conjuring movies are based. And they came in and I think it took numerous priests to exorcise this kid. Now, meantime, the boy has a sister, and the sister has a fiance. And I forget his name. I want to say Cheyenne. I can't remember his name exactly. And the boyfriend was very protective of the boy who had been possessed. And apparently at one point, and he was present for the exorcisms, and at one point he said, taunting the demon out of the child, "Come into me. You know, you're a bully. Don't pick on a kid. I dare you, come into me." And I actually, because I've been investigating this, I've got chills now. I've been investigating the crap out of this since all this happened to me. And I found out about the chair. And Ed Warren is in an interview, which you can find on YouTube, where he says, "We saw him disappear. The boy, the man that we knew and loved and was a wonderful, wonderful guy. We saw in his eyes. He left. And then a couple of minutes later, he came back and it wasn't him anymore. And we knew that the entity
Transferred.
or an entity of the many had jumped into this guy."
Sorry, kid, you are on your own.
Right.
You're on your own.
So the kid gets
You can do
healed.
it. You're doing great, kid.
The kid gets healed.
God.
And Ed Warren, I think he regrets. I mean, he says, of course, in hindsight, I watched it. I thought, and they told me, get out. They said, you can't, don't say that. Get out. But it was too late.
Yeah.
And so this very kind, gentle, mild-mannered man all of a sudden starts to exhibit signs of he's becoming angry, he's becoming sullen, he's becoming depressed. And he gets into an argument with his landlord, who was also very, very good friends with him and his fiance, and kills him. And he doesn't remember a thing. Doesn't remember what happened. And so, of course, he's put on trial, and Ed and Lorraine Warren come to testify
On his behalf.
And says he was possessed. This is what we do. We're demonologists. We watched it happen.
And he said the devil made me do it.
The devil made me do it. Yeah, that's that case. And the rocking chair that was in the room, apparently part of the possession, maybe one of the entities flew into it or attached to it. Sure. But that rocking chair would rock back and forth. And Ed and Lorraine Warren has said that they saw the devil or a devil sitting in that chair, and that it flew all over the room. So now that chair is a new exhibit at Zach Bagans' Haunted Museum. It opened the day before I went. There was multiple incidences. I went the next day. It was closed.
But the chair was there.
But the chair and the thing was there, and it was pissed, and it got me.
It's like a new demon roommate. The house is like, fuck.
Yeah, he's just got to bind the shit out of it. Like, I think he probably didn't realize.
And you're okay.
I am 100% okay. Everybody, my family is okay. My son is okay. Nothing is attached to me, and nothing will get through the many, many, many. I'm not tempting fate. I'm putting it out there. I'm putting it out to the universe. I am 100% clean, which if you just tuned in, I'm not talking about drugs. But yeah,
someone just...
That is my damn
presses
story,
play
you
on
guys.
the podcast. He's like, I'm going straight to minute 45.
That's a good place to start.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Yeah.
That's wild. That's a crazy ass story.
I know.
Do you think that putting all these items in this context and constantly bringing a parade of people in front of them is like charging them up even more?
Possibly, but here's the thing. Lorraine and Ed Warren had a very similar exhibit, and I think some of the pieces from their exhibit are now in Zach's museum. And they just, every day they'd have a priest come and do prayers. And I think, if they take precautions, it's safe.
It's almost like this. It's probably better that they're all under house arrest, as opposed to floating about,
it's like a
around
demonic frat house.
He says now he'll come out and people have thrown stuff, either mailed them to him with no return address or name, objects saying this thing is haunted. This is what it does.
Right.
Keep it.
Please get rid of it.
Like
take
he'll
it away.
come, he'll
Orange is
see
the new
stuff.
black magic.
People have thrown
Right.
stuff over the fence, and again, with a note saying this is what this does.
Right.
Take it.
Take it, please.
God.
I mean, better in the
You're
hands.
braver than I. You will not find me.
Better in the hands of, I say, someone like Zach, who at least knows what he's doing, is taking precautions, as far as I could tell,
Right.
Yeah.
than out there in the world.
Yeah. I would agree with that. That's crazy.
Glad you're okay.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
That
And it was
demon
optional.
better fuck
I signed
off.
a waiver.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was my choice.
Are
man.
demon handprints specifically on the waiver, or
I mean,
They
kind
will be now.
Kind of, and it's so funny because they were crazy about those waivers in the front, and I was like, all right, God, we're signing them, jeez. And now knowing what happened the day before,
Right.
I'm
Would you
like,
go back?
Of course.
Of
No,
course.
Never.
no, I'll never go back.
You're good. Been there, done that.
Never.
All right, well, we're going to play a game with you.
Yay!
We play. That's an amazing story, by the way.
Yeah, that's wild.
I took up your whole podcast. I'm
No,
sorry.
not at
it's
all.
good. It's
we got
shit.
a whole
Worth
other
it.
section of the podcast. Trust me.
All right.
We're about to take up all your time. All right, here we go.
Oh shit.
This is a rapid fire game. I'm going to go down a list of
God.
cryptids, creatures, entities, concepts.
Say again.
Cryptids, creatures, entities, concepts.
Okay.
And if you believe in it, you'll say believe it.
Uh-huh.
If you don't, you'll say bullshit. There's no in between.
Wow, this might be
There
the
could be an
easiest
emotional
game
in between.
ever.
This might
Yeah.
be. There could be an emotional in between, but you only can say bullshit or believe it.
Okay.
Here we go. On your mark. Get set.
Okay.
Ghosts.
Believe it.
UFOs.
Believe it.
Bigfoot.
Believe it.
Angels.
Believe it.
Gnomes.
Believe it.
Unicorns.
Believe it.
Shadow people.
Believe it.
Loch Ness Monster.
Believe it.
Little gray aliens.
Believe it.
Dogman.
Don't know.
It's a shadow entity or physical entity that's kind of like Sasquatch, but it has the head of a dog.
Believe it.
Parallel universes.
Believe it.
The Loveland Frogman.
Don't know.
It's a weird entity that they've seen that looks like a frog with big glowing eyes in around Loveland, Ohio.
Believe it.
Mermaids.
Believe it.
Heaven.
Believe it.
Hell.
Believe it.
Yeti.
Believe it.
Venusians, a.k.a. hot blondes from Venus.
Bullshit.
Men
so
too.
close to a perfect score.
Michael, why'd you throw that new one? That's a new one.
Not just women, men too.
Yeah, bullshit.
ESP.
Believe it.
Chupacabra.
Believe it.
Demons.
Believe it.
Atlantis.
Believe it.
Bat Squatch.
What?
Like a Sasquatch, but it has wings and it kind of looks like a big like bat demon thing. It's in near Mount Rainier, Washington in the late 90s.
Believe it.
Life on other planets?
Believe it.
World peace.
Believe it.
Peace in the multiverse.
What's that?
Like in all the harmony of all the parallel universes are
Is it possible?
Yeah.
I believe it's possible. Does it exist at the moment? No.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Great job. Great
Wow.
job.
Wow.
Wow.
I
told you it would be seven.
That was amazing.
I left out monogamy.
That's
That
amazing.
That's
for the
a
live
person's
episode.
choice.
Crowd
That
joke.
Which I-
Venusian ones was a new one.
Why you
Otherwise,
Yeah.
you ruined a perfect
dude, that
score.
would have been our first perfect score.
I was like, this is
I was
it.
spicing up
High
the
five on mermaids.
Venus,
Oh, for sure. Why not?
Venusians were in the live show. That's
Yeah.
where I switched. I
Oh,
spiced it up a little
sure.
bit.
Wow.
Yeah.
Unicorns.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, cool, great.
I mean, here's the thing is, I can't think of a reason why not.
I love that.
Whereas, I guess you're supposed to play the game where it's like, prove it. But honestly,
Right.
I play that game as like, well, you haven't proved. I haven't
Prove
seen
it
proof
doesn't
that it doesn't
exist.
exist.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
I
I
like
should
that attitude.
assume that it does.
Well, this is why
I love
our
that.
audience loves you, Donna Lynne. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, it's time for High Strangeness.
Nice.
Shh, wow. That was amazing. Just sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride, Donna Lynne.
It's
The
time for
soothing tones of
Super Producer Riley and DL Champlin.
That was Bryce, actually. That was Bryce's smooth tones.
No, yours.
Oh, these
Yeah,
smooth tones.
yeah.
What, no credit for my smooth tones?
You sound like a radio DJ on like an easy listening station.
Yeah.
From
This
midnight to
letter
3
comes
a.m.
from
Oh, that's good.
Maple, Wisconsin.
That's really
Dear
good.
Bryce, why
Dear
are
Bryce.
you such a dildo?
Mike! Fucking dick. You know,
You ruined it.
Donna Lynne, everybody loves a good team.
Sure.
Batman and Robin, Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre, Mario and Luigi. But perhaps no other team would do more to impact our current Western history and influence not only the likes of Sir Francis Bacon, the father of modern-day science, but to go on to play an integral part in the development of Western society, influencing secret societies such as the Rosicrucians, Freemasonry, and the Golden Dawn, as well as 20th century occultists such as Jack Parsons, father of modern-day rocketry, Anton LaVey, who wrote the Satanic Bible, and probably the most famous of all modern-day occultists, Aleister Crowley, who referred to himself simply as the Beast. I'm talking about none other than the OG magic men themselves, Dr. John Dee and Edward Kelly. Are you familiar?
I am not.
Oh, you're going to love this. Born into a humble family with minor court connections in 1527, John Dee quickly distinguished himself as a brilliant student and soon rose to heights of European intellectual life, becoming one of the great scientific minds of Europe. Yet Dee sought not to master one subject, but the totality of all the sciences then available. This, for Dee, was a spiritual quest to know the mind of God.
Mathematics,
And like
alchemy,
many, numerology.
spiritualism,
And like many intellectuals of his day, he extended his studies
sexiness.
into sexiness and occult philosophy, seeking direct contact with higher spiritual beings that he hoped would help further his education.
Also good manners.
Yes, chivalry. Dee was a polymath of gargantuan proportion, English alchemist, mathematician, astronomer, geographer, astrologer, philosopher, and magician, a true Renaissance man. Dee owed his academic success to his work ethic. He slept just 4 hours a night and studied 18 hours a day. Dee's hard work paid off as he quickly became one of the foremost scientific geniuses of the 16th century, laying the groundwork for modern-day science. Yet, why do we not know about him? We'll get to that later. Court astrologer to both Queen Mary I and Queen Elizabeth, who trusted Dee so much as to have him give her an astrological reading to determine the date of her coronation. According to legend, Dee conjured a windstorm which resulted in the defeat of the invading Spanish Armada. He is to Queen Elizabeth what Merlin was to Arthur, only he was real. Dee even invented the idea of a British Empire and was involved as a spy master for the British court. Dee and Elizabeth would often communicate in secret, and he would sign his letters with the secret moniker 007, given to him by the none other than Queen Elizabeth herself. That's right. He was the OG James Bond, y'all.
He's also the inspiration for Prospero in The Tempest. That's who Shakespeare.
Really?
Yeah.
Nice.
Dee was also the editor of the first English translation of Euclid's Elements and had more books in his own library than the universities of Cambridge or Oxford at the time. He hoped his books would one day serve as the foundation for a National Library of England. Dee, along with Edward Kelly, whom we'll get to in a second, was responsible for the Enochian system of magical intercourse. Yes, I said magical intercourse.
Emphasis on intercourse, everyone. Just
I like the musical sort of
a heads up.
A little porny. Just a little porny.
That sounds great, right? With a hierarchy of angelic beings, a system of great importance in the magical technology of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn and of Aleister Crowley. It's well believed that Dee himself was the true instigator of the Rosicrucian movement, an esoteric order that would have profound effects in the enlightenment of man, the French Revolution, and the formation of Freemasonry, who would give the New World her spiritual and constitutional foundation. For Dee, his one true obsession was simple: return man to his pre-fall glory in the Garden of Eden by hastening the apocalypse and bringing about the second coming of Christ by uniting all the religions of the world. A pretty simple task, I suppose, but a task that would require the help from a legion
Not at all.
of God's archangels. But first, he must commune with them, and second, he must learn their secret language. Enter one, Edward Talbot, who was born at Worcestershire in 1555, but would change his name to Kelly after being employed by Dee. Edward Kelly was like the bad boy of 16th century magic. Long black curly hair, black skull cap, OG. Kelly was an apothecary's apprentice for a short while, which he may have fueled his fascination with alchemy. He studied at Oxford at around the age of 17, but was not there for long and left for one reason or another. He's probably kicked out for being too much of a badass.
Yeah, he was a punk.
Yeah.
He was a shithead punk he was, anti-authoritism. He was a bit of a grifter and a con artist as well.
Yeah.
He got fired a lot.
Edward Kelly led an unsavory life and is said to have dug up a corpse from the Lancashire graveyard at Walton le Dale, invoking the spirit of the deceased by practicing necromancy and using it for the purpose of predicting the future. He is also said to have had his ears chopped off after being accused of forgery while working as a notary.
I love that he gets his ears chopped off for forgery.
Yeah.
Go for the hands.
Yeah.
How about what does he get for necromancy?
Yeah. Kelly
know
was
what you chop
restless
off.
in his search for the elusive Philosopher's Stone. On March the 8th, 1582, Dee was introduced to the psychic scryer, Edward Kelly, and the two became acquainted. Now, we talked about this earlier. Scrying is the ability to gaze upon a stone or crystal or mirror, in the case of Bela Lugosi, and come in contact with otherworldly entities. Now, at first, Dee was unsure of Kelly's intent, but when Kelly, using Dee's shoe stone, saw the vision of an angel, the partnership between the two men was sealed.
And
more on Dee's shoe stone later.
And this is important because Dee, while having this brilliant mind, didn't have much. And practicing alchemy, he was really trying to turn lead and other metals into stone for Queen Elizabeth. he, as brilliant as he was, he didn't feel like he had a conduit of magical conduit to the other side.
He needed a psychic
So
scribe.
Kelly shows up and he's like, I got you.
Yeah.
I can talk to things in mirrors.
Oh,
And
I'm
perhaps-
having a hard time believing that's an angel, though.
Well, what Kelly had seen was the biblical angel Uriel. And Uriel gave Kelly the instructions for the making of a powerful magical talisman. With this talisman, the pair would be able to access the world of the spirits. Uriel also told them that the world contained 4 watchtowers, and each of these watchtowers has 12 gates. These gates are the entry points to angelic dimensions. Now, to open these gates, one of the 49 angels' calls must be spoken in the language known as Enochian, the language of the angels, the language spoken in the Garden of Eden before the fall of man. So needless to say, Dee had found his man. Working together, the two were able to bring about the elemental table containing 624 letters, each of which were taken as a number from the cipher given by Kelly. The angels were said to tap out letters on a complicated table, something like a crossword puzzle, but with all the cells filled in. The first third were tapped out, with each angelic word backwards, the following 2/3 with each word forwards. There are no significant errors or discrepancies in word usage between the first and following parts.
A lot of time to kill in Mortlake back in
Yeah.
1572.
Crossword takes on a whole new meaning.
Needless to say, this was complicated at best. Author Jason Louv described Enochian magic as that of calculus, whereas something like ceremonial and chaos magic might be something as simple geometry.
It's a super
complicated,
dense cipher.
super in-depth. Now, in the English translations were not tapped out, but according to Kelly, appeared on little strips of paper coming out of the angels' mouths. All the information given to the two men by the angels was written down, word for word, in an orderly fashion by Dee. Dee considered the dictation of the angelic material as highly important for 3 reasons. First, Dee believed the angelic represented a documentable case of true glossalia, the phenomenon of speaking in an unknown language, especially in religious worship, thereby proving that Kelly was actually speaking with angels and not from his imagination. Second, the angels claimed that angelic was actually the original prototype of Hebrew and the language with which God spoke with Adam, and thus the first human language. Third, the angelic material takes the form of a set of conjurations that are supposed to summon an extremely powerful set of angelic beings who he believed would be able to reveal many secrets, especially the key to the Philosopher's Stone. Another argument against Kelly's fabrication of angelic is that the English translations are in a very different style of writing to that of Kelly's own work, exhibiting a quality that seems beyond Kelly's own modest ability as a writer. What the angels told Dee and Kelly was sometimes radical, hard to take in, and often difficult for them to believe. On certain occasions, the angels spoke to the two men, telling them that no prayer should be made to Christ, there is no sin, and that Christ had robbed God of his honor. Okay. More and more contact was made with the angels over the coming years, sometimes with sessions lasting 8 hours at a time. And the language of Enochian and its accompanying magical system grew. During the seances, Kelly was to speak in more than a few tongues, including Latin, Greek, as well as the Enochian language. In April of 1582, Kelly was told by another angel called Michael that he would need to marry. Kelly did not wish to, but in May of the same year, the angel Michael insisted on it. And so Kelly obeyed, marrying a young 19-year-old girl called Joan Cooper.
like the
Marry that hot 19-year-old that
Worst Irish mother ever.
You
need to get married.
Or he's like, gosh,
I must.
I guess I gotta marry this hot 19-year-old.
19-year-old.
The angel
What can
told
I
me
do?
to.
Well, in 1583, in speaking through Kelly, Uriel prophesied that Mary, the Queen of Scots, would be executed and an attempt would be made to invade England. In 1587, Mary was beheaded, and in the following year, 1588, the Spanish Armada attempted the invasion of England. Uriel was right. Dee was introduced to Albert Lasky, Prince of Silesia in Poland, at a reception in Lasky's honor. Lasky was already aware of Dee's magical exploits and was keen for Dee to tell him of his future. And after hearing about Dee and Kelly's experiences with the angels, Lasky begged Dee and Kelly to accompany him back to Poland to continue their magical experiments. Dee and Kelly consulted the angels, and to Poland they went, wives and all.
To Prague.
In Poland, they did. They traveled various places.
Okay.
Dee and Kelly became well known and were invited out to dinner with some of Poland's rich and famous, even gaining a place at the King of Poland's table. But alas, it did not last long, and in May of 1586, Dee and Kelly were expelled from Prague after the two were accused of sorcery.
Oh.
The two men and their
But
wives...
Prague's not in Poland.
No. It's
It's
Michael?
near. I'm just curious.
On their travels.
On their travels.
Right.
No, I should have...
Because I know they did spend they spent some time
only
in Prague
places that
doing
Bavaria,
a lot of this
Prague,
stuff.
Poland.
Yeah.
Yes, they
Paris,
went
Prague,
around.
Poland.
The two men were lucky enough to take up residency at a palace of Count Wilhelm in Rosenberg in Trabant. Now, while here, things took a nasty turn for Dee and Kelly in the form of a child spirit called Madimi. Madimi appeared to Kelly, telling him and Dee that by the will of God to share all things. Further adding, "Nothing is unlawful which is unlawful to God. One committing adultery on my behalf shall be blessed eternally and give heaven her reward," and told the two they were to swap wives. Oh snap.
Yeah.
This was a hard pill to swallow and did not go down well with Dee and Kelly, even less so with their wives. But the angels insisted, and so it must be done. And it was, as Dee would write in his journal. From here on, Dee and Kelly argued more and more, and within 2 years, Dee had decided to
Like
return.
any good rock band who swaps wives.
Yeah,
Shit falls apart
Things
real
got
fast.
tense.
it's true. Shit got real.
Too many drugs, too many fucking each other's
So
wives.
many orgies.
Dee had decided
Their best
to
work
return.
was behind them. Time to end this shit.
It was. Dee had decided to return to England without Kelly. Back in England, Queen Elizabeth allowed Dee to continue with his experiments in alchemy unhindered. But when Elizabeth died, James I came in, and being not one for court astrologers and magical practice in general, would no longer permit his presence. And so Dee moved back to Mortlake in retirement. In 1608, Dr. John Dee passed away and was buried, a disappointed and penniless man at the place of his birth, Mortlake, and for the most part lost to history, save for those in the occult circle who know better. Meanwhile, Kelly went on to set himself up as an alchemist, possibly with the information given to him by the angels. He eventually ended up in Prague working for Emperor Rudolf to produce gold. While there, he died under obscure conditions in 1595 at the age of 40. The general consensus surrounding his death is that he was imprisoned for not actually producing gold and fell from his tower while trying to escape.
Oh, jeez.
This will probably remain only a speculation, and his death will remain as mysterious as his life prior to his association with Dee. To quote from Jason Louv's masterful work, John Dee and the Empire of Angels, Enochian Magic and the Occult Roots of the Modern World, which is a highly recommended book, I might say. The influence of Dee and the angelic system he and Kelly delivered to the world can be found in an astonishing number of the major turning points of Western history. Since Dee's death, in the birth of modern science, in the creation of the secret societies that liberalized Europe and gave America its spiritual calling, in the creation of the State of Israel and its subsequent centrality to American foreign policy, and even in the genesis of the United States space program. In studying Dee and his work, we are studying the secret history of the world. And that's the story of John Dee and Edward Kelly.
Well done, my lad.
Yes.
Well done.
Well done.
Yes.
Yeah, there's this great book called The Queen's Conjurer by Benjamin Woolley. And it's cool. There's a couple things like Dee, which was really cool, is like Dee started out making like mechanical and wooden automatons.
Holy
like little basically like wind up robotics.
Yeah.
And he did a lot of like sets and special effects for theater.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, so is that the character in Blade Runner? Is that a reference to John Dee then?
Which maybe
You know, the toy maker.
yeah,
that's making
yeah.
all the
I mean,
wind-ups and
he
everything?
was doing all those sort of like.
Well, I have some more information on that, Michael. Dee first gained a reputation as a magician while at Trinity. He used his extensive
Trinity
and
College.
diverse studies to produce some very impressive stage effects for a production of Aristophanes' play Peace. Aristophanes' play Peace. His masterpiece was a giant mechanical beetle that was so shocking to audiences, they assumed he must have made a deal with the devil to conjure such a device. And that sort of followed his reputation around for years.
He was like
to
the
come.
Julie Taymor of Trinity College.
Julie Taymor was-
like doing big wooden
Right.
puppets and set deck. But it's great. It's interesting because like the thing that I really like about this story, I mean, it's obviously fascinating, but when it gets to the wife swapping stuff, there's this whole thing where when he went to, I think his wife's name was Elizabeth or Anne, one of the two.
Yeah.
And she's like, dude, what? She did not like Edward Kelly.
Yeah.
But, they lived in a different time when men are like, this is what we do, this is what we do. But everyone was like, why does John Dee like this guy? Why does he believe him and trust him so much? And when you read his letters to his wife about Edward, the language that he uses seems to me to imply that he was in love with this dude.
Aw.
Just infatuated with him because Kelly had a really bad reputation as a grifter, but clearly was super charming and clearly was brilliant in his own right. He was like a rock star. He was like one of these guys who was kind of a dirtbag, but was a real like genius and really good at getting people to follow him at least for a while. And I think John Dee was just in love with him, and then everything soured after like they swapped.
It's an interesting theory. I had not heard anything or read anything about
it's
that.
When you read, he talks about his devoted love, how much he loves him, how much he's brilliant, and you're just like, this is coming up a lot.
Well,
I can kind of read between the lines.
Yeah.
here.
Well, he did feel that with his work with Ed Kelly was doing his divine plan, his job betrothed to him by God, and in a sense he was, and for the more part, they did witness all different kinds of spirits and entities, and even though it was Edward Kelly who would stare into that shoe stone, which is still available at the British Museum to this day. There were multiple times when they would see spirits, interplay in that study that they were working in. Now, this isn't the first time that we've heard of someone gaining incredible knowledge from otherworldly entities. John Nash, for instance, the Nobel Prize-winning mathematician and economist who did critical work on game theory in the 1940s and 50s, gave us the Nash equilibrium. Now, he believed that he had been recruited by aliens to save the world, and that they were assisting him by sending him mathematical equations, and that they later acted to end his career. When asked how he could believe in such an outlandish scenario, Nash replies, "Because the ideas I had about supernatural beings came to me the same way that my mathematical ideas did, so I took them seriously." And it was very much the same with John Dee. I mean, the amount of information that they got from these spirit readings, and like I was saying, they would take place sometimes 8 hours a day, and this went on for about 10 years or so.
Well, it's crazy too because their story really parallels in a lot of ways Jack Parsons and L. Ron Hubbard, who were studying John Dee and Edward Kelly stuff through the teachings of and writings of Aleister Crowley.
Yeah.
And Jack Parsons was one of the fathers of the rocket. He worked for the Jet Propulsion Lab.
Well, he was a founding member of the Jet Propulsion Lab.
He was a founding member, and he was basically one of the guys who figured out how to create a rocket for the United States government. Also did tests at Edwards Air Force Base, which we covered on our live show. Meanwhile, L. Ron Hubbard is a sci-fi writer who's like trying to find his way around. Totally went on to have a career where he was doing tax evasion, getting kicked out of London, getting kicked out of America, kind of had this reputation of being a ladies' man, con artist, and then created this whole religion that, later, but
Scientology.
he and Jack Parsons were out in the desert trying to create, also shared a lot of girlfriends and probably hooked up a lot themselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
But they were trying to create Babylon, the Whore of Babylon, create an antichrist through this, like, they were trying to conjure this woman into existence that would bring about the end of the world, because they, along with Aleister Crowley and tracing back to John Dee, believed, hey, if we can just get to this so-called apocalypse, we're going to get to that heaven on earth
the sweet
thing.
spot.
The sweet shit.
Well,
right?
it's funny with Dianetics, just having sort of, I was in a religion class and we all picked a religion. Nobody wanted Scientology, so I took it.
Yeah.
And part of the first course is to read Dianetics, which is sort of like their primer.
Yeah.
And I have to say, I was incredibly shocked at how sound the metaphysics was.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's a reason why people sign up for it.
Dianetics is a very sound metaphysical thing. It's more the cultish thing around
all
it.
this
But
all this stuff has to have a
sound.
lore in order to hook. So
Well,
I mean,
and also there's a lot of great ideas in religion and in cults. It's usually the
It's the
human
people.
runs
Yeah, it's the people.
structure that shuts that shit down.
Yeah, but I mean, as Michael would say, there would be no Jack Parsons without John Dee. There would be no Aleister Crowley without John Dee. I mean, this guy was the
There'd
first.
be no James Bond without John Dee.
Yeah, and
For real?
Yeah, he was signed.
That's so fascinating. No Prospero without John Dee.
Yeah, and it's so fascinating. I mean, this guy was a navigational and mathematical genius, too. I mean, he designed and implemented one of the first navigational tools that Francis Drake used to sail around the world to San Francisco Bay. So, I mean, history should be shining a huge light on John Dee, but it was his obsession with this, bringing about the apocalypse. And look up the word apocalypse. It's not what you would think it is. It doesn't mean like
it means
gloom and doom.
It means great reveal.
A great revealing, a moving aside of the curtain. And his all this idea was like, if we could bring all these religions together, then man, that's when Christ will come back, and that's when we can return to our pre-fall of man glory. And that's what he wanted. He wanted to bring
man
back
man glory.
Back
Whatever.
to the man, woman, man. It's a
humankind.
Well,
humankind.
Yeah.
It's so sensitive. But yes. Anyway,
We have a large female following him. Just
yeah,
gonna
well,
say.
sure, yeah, that's fine.
It's getting better.
Oh my god!
I like it when Dad gets a little hot under the collar.
Dad gets on. I'm not hot under the collar. God damn it!
So
in
what do
your
you
room.
think, Donna Lynne?
Yeah.
Bullshit or believe it? Enochian magic, angels. What you said? I don't think these were
No,
angels.
it's what the hell was that?
I believe
Yeah, but it's the same
it. I don't believe they were angels, though. I think they probably interpreted it as angels.
Yeah.
Because that was what they could, what they felt comfortable naming it. I'm not saying that it was a negative or a positive. It might have been something from a completely different
Extraterrestrial
realm.
intelligence.
It could have been an alien. It could have been,
You know what's interesting is it was
But I believe it, though.
It was Kelly and not Dee who sometimes insisted that these were demonic entities, and John Dee would crack the whip back to work.
Well, also John Dee knew that if there was word caught that they were doing black magic, they could have their fucking heads.
Here's the thing. I just don't think
because it's a super.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think with angelic, I feel like angelic stuff comes more from a place of light and passiveness, where like they come to you while you dream, or they come to you in light, or a daydream, or a meditative state. The act of conjuring implies to me something that just takes a lot more effort than a celestial.
Right.
Not to say again that it was bad.
Yeah.
I don't think they were angels.
I think John Dee had his Christian blinders on. I mean, he came from a Christian belief system.
Yeah, but
so
if
I
that
think
kept
he
him
was,
safe, tell
Yeah.
everybody it's angels. Sure,
Yeah,
absolutely. I would do it. I would do it too.
Yeah.
Oh, they're
I
angels.
think he had.
it's all angels. So
Yeah,
good in here.
it's angels is good.
It's all about
but
God.
even that was like, dude, you're not allowed to talk to angels. You can't talk to angels. That's not. That's not allowed.
But a fascinating character, and some could even make the argument that at the start of Rosicrucianism, when those pamphlets were handed around in Germany, that their founding forefather, which was a fictional character named Rosencrantz, that they were actually referring to John Dee himself. So he might just be the original father of these modern occult societies that have really shaped America and the French Revolution, like I was saying. So they've had a huge historical impact. So whatever Dee conjured seems to have an after effect, or there seems to be aftermath to his events. No doubt about it.
Oh, sure. I mean, I think, isn't there, of course, I can't remember. I think it was Leonardo da Vinci, where I guess somewhere in his life he disappeared for 2 years, or Einstein. It was some obviously brilliant person.
Yeah.
They just kind of went off the map for 2 years and then came back and was like,
oh my God,
had all of this
Yes.
new information. I think it's probably much more common than we
Well, there's
realize.
this great
Absolutely.
That's a channeling as
yeah.
opposed to
no,
a
they go off into the
thinking.
forest. They live in the cave.
They
and
become a
they come
vessel.
back with a boon of information.
There's this great documentary called Jesus in India that was on PBS years ago, and looking at the historical Jesus and the idea, because in the Bible, there's
Your
always
Urantia
missing
book.
time.
Yep.
Same with Shakespeare. Shakespeare disappeared for a long time. There was no historical record.
Did you say
of where he was.
Urantia book? Mm-hmm. I just bought that at the.
I dig it.
Oh,
My favorite
no.
section is the Jesus section. Skip right to it's thick.
Right.
It's a lot of celestial. It's very
Cult.
heady, specific.
Right,
like, here are
right.
the realms, and here is the 1,200
Right. They're into
mega
the
angels, and
thick-
here's the mini angels.
Right.
Thick
but there
mythology.
is a section in there though that's fantastic, and it's all about the life of Jesus. And as someone who was raised Christian, that was the first thing that opened my mind. It's basically a channeling again. It's a
it's
transcribing.
channeled material.
And the whole thing about Jesus, he was married, he had kids, he was a fuck up. I mean, it was like,
Oh, wild.
But quite honestly, that rendition of Jesus is so much more believable to me as someone who is raised Catholic.
Yeah.
That I actually have more of a belief in Jesus as a person and his sacrifice when he's described like that.
Well,
Oh, that's so
so
funny.
this is different,
Oh,
but
sorry.
exciting.
Sorry, tangent.
No, I like
Urantia tangent.
no, please.
Yeah.
I mean, Riley and I had to stop Bryce and Grace from signing up for that cult this past weekend. But no, but there's this
The book's cool,
theory that basically like
It is a cool book.
Yeah,
Jesus
Rob
was
the book.
kind of in Jerusalem, Nazareth, like. In Nazareth, like kind of marked as like, hey, this carpenter's son's a little special.
Right.
And of course, when that happens, and as would happen with any man, there are just lots of like fathers coming with their daughters and suitors and everything. And basically, Jesus, in order to escape that, took the spice roads out to India, traveled to India, and trained with Buddhists and yogis and Hindu
Also,
masters
that makes a lot of sense to me
in
too.
India, and then came back to Nazareth when he was in his late 20s, early 30s, having learned all of these ancient Eastern practices and religions that wouldn't have necessarily made their way into the Middle East. And he started blending that with Judaism, and out of that, Christian philosophy was born.
Yeah.
But it's a really great thing because you can go to temples in India where there are all these scrolls. They're like, yeah, no. Jesus was here. He actually studied here 2,000 years ago. We have the yogi to yogi or monk to monk, like records of
Yeah.
who studied here. And there's like, we had Jesus. We had the historical Jesus. And it's just a really fascinating...
They're like, right there, page 335.
Yeah,
Believe
so
it.
there was
Jesus.
there.
Believe it.
But
Says
yeah,
it right there.
but
It's like on the
of course
library
in,
card.
yeah, but
Yeah.
of course in Western
Jesus
culture and of course in the
Christ.
official Christian church, we don't get any of that. That's all not, because
My
well,
fa-
the Bible is written
Yeah.
by
My
Exactly.
favorite
human beings
Jesus
with an
story
agenda.
Yeah.
comes from Terrence McKenna. Jesus was a mushroom. And the
Santa's
12
a mushroom,
and the
Jesus
12
is a
Everyone's a
mushroom.
mushroom.
Yeah, man. No, but the 12 disciples who wrote those books, they had come upon the Amanita muscaria. Anyway,
You're a mushroom, Bryce.
Thank
Well,
you.
Donna Lynne, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, what
again.
a great episode that
You're
was.
such a
Thank you so
fantastic
much.
guest,
As
and
always,
what a great
thrill,
story.
gentlemen.
Boom, lifetime member.
So
Yes.
Crazy X is all wrapped up. What's next for you? Headed back to New York
We
City.
are. We're going to head back in July and sort of take the month of August to get ourselves reacclimated. And then my kid's going to start third grade.
Well, we're going to
and-
miss you here in Los Angeles.
Oh,
and
we're
please,
gonna miss you too.
anytime you're
Yep.
in town, you got to come by the Clubhouse and record an episode with us.
Of
I'm sure
course.
Without demon scratches.
hopefully.
hard pass.
But
You don't need that to come by.
I don't.
sounds
I don't
like
need
interesting
that ever.
stories find you. So we'll
They
want to hear about your
sure
next adventure.
do. Yeah.
Where can people follow you on social media until now? Until then,
On the Twitter, I'm at DL Champlin, and on Instagram, I'm on a really annoying handle, which is like Donna _Lynne I don't even know.
sounds like Bryce set that up for you.
It's so much work, you guys. Don't even bother with Instagram. But Twitter, I'm at DL Champlin. That's easy to remember.
Great.
Awesome.
Yeah.
You can find me. You know what? She'll be tagged in this episode's
Yeah.
Instagram. So you just go there, you tap on it, and go follow Donna Lynne. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you for listening to the show. We appreciate you.
Yes.
We had the best time at Contact, and we hopefully will do some live shows that don't require a 3-day pass or whatever it is to come see us.
A wristband.
A wristband. That's
breathalyzer.
not necessarily the ideal situation for us, but boy, we're glad we got to see those of you that we did. And here's to another exciting summer with Bigfoot Collectors Club. Until next week, I remain Michael McMillan for Bryce Johnson and Riley Bray. And until we see you again,
You should go get regressed. Bigfoot Collectors Club is produced by Riley Bray. Our theme song is Come Alone by Suneaters, courtesy of Lotuspool Records. If you like the show, please rate and review us on iTunes. It really helps get the podcast to more listeners. To support the show, check out our Patreon page at patreon.com/Bigfoot Collectors Club and unlock multiple reward episodes every month.